Hey, what's up? It's Bon. Let's talk about Mass Effect. And specifically, did BioWare make the Quarians and Tali too pretty? First, if you like Mass Effect, if you like video games, if you like speculation news and reviews about video games, please subscribe to my channel, like this video if you do, and leave a comment down below with what you think about what I end up talking about, or if you have your own ideas or thoughts. Or just say hi. It all helps the algorithm. Let's get into the video. What I want to do today is put my 2 cents officially into this conversation that has been going on ever since I started playing Mass Effect when the Legendary Edition came out. One of the big subjects about the Mass Effect Legendary Edition that I was unaware of how controversial it was when it happened, but I have since learned in Mass Effect 3, if you romance as male Shep Tali, you reach a point in Mass Effect 3 where she says, "Hey, I left you a gift in your cabin." You go back and you look, and it's a picture of herself without her faceplate. She still has like her helmet on, but she doesn't have like the visor. It's a picture of her without it. And this was a big deal because in the original trilogy, you have this moment, but the picture was actually a like Getty's image of just a model like looking at the camera that they pretty heavily photoshopped for her to have like the 3 fingers and some of the markings on her face, but otherwise it was just a human with a few markings. And it was an actual human. It wasn't like a computer generated image as you would have kind of expected at that time. So then in the Legendary Edition, we got this. So you get a picture frame that has this image of Tali in it. And what's been really interesting is that it's been fairly controversial for a few reasons. The main one being that people wish that Tali was more alien looking or more exotic looking, however you want to describe it. Another one being that it sounds like some people actually kind of like the original version. Now, what's interesting about the conversation, and this is where I could use some comments down in chat, is whether or not this was also a topic of conversation before the Legendary Edition, because even the OG trilogy picture was she was still basically a human. She was a human, literally. And then with this, what we see is that they've gone a similar direction, but this is a much more recognizable. It's a computer generated image of what Tali would look like, except in game, and it seems a little more believable simply because for all 3 games you can see through her visor. You can always see like the silhouette of their faces, and that includes all of the Quarians, not just Tali. And so it seems like they tried to make this face kind of match up with the silhouette that's behind it. They have the markings on her face. We really don't see that much of her face. So, a lot of the conversation is wishing she was more alien looking. Now, I think there's a deeper conversation to have about that because there are references in the game to how the Quarians were known for their beauty, even in, the far history. Javik speaks about this, which is really interesting because that implies that the Quarians like existed in his time, but they must not have been able to do space flight, and maybe the Protheans left them alone, but we're aware of them. I always think that's an interesting tidbit, but there is a deeper conversation that's part of this that I think is worth throwing out there, and that there are people who don't like Tali's character, and that's fine. Everyone has their own preferences, but the main reason being is that for a large part of the game, she's pretty like anti-Geth, which is, if you understand the whole history of that, understandable. But there's some people who have painted that situation, maybe take it too seriously, or maybe it's just how they feel. That's up to different people. That seem like when they say that they wish she didn't look the way she did, they always will propose like, oh, this concept art, I wish she would have looked like this. And you just have these just mongrels, just these like hideous looking aliens. And I have a few of those pictures here. So and this is all from official concept art from the, I don't know if it was the OG game or in 3 when they are actually going to reveal what she looks like. But you have this art here, which to me just like, if this was Mass Effect 1 concept, it makes sense because even then they didn't probably have the profile behind the visor that you see obviously wouldn't have fit with this. So, maybe they were going that direction the whole time. This one is just, in my opinion, just horrifying, like genuinely scary, like a skull with giant scary eyes. And then you have this one too, which is like fine, and it is interesting because it is like an extremely unique alien look, where those other two are kind of like just like the stereotypical alien looking creature. But you do have to at least consider that some of this is a pushback of people who just don't like the Quarians or Tali individually and wish they were like ugly, in my opinion. Regardless of that, I do kind of push back on the argument a bit that they aren't alien looking enough. They do have a very unique like kind of body structure. They have these like extremely like very skinny arms, and even the males of the Quarians look kind of odd. You have kind of like an interesting body shape. They have like the dog legs. They have like the backward legs. I believe they have like 2 big toes instead of normal feet. They just have 3 fingers on their hands. They do have a lot of alien features. They just happen to have an alien looking face. And we also don't know, and maybe in the next game we'll get an answer to this, what the rest of them looks like. We don't know. Are they bald? Do they have hair? Do they have like tentacles on their head or some kind of weird shape to their head? We don't know a lot about them, and there are a couple pieces of art like this one here, and this one here, where you have I believe this is a fan one. I think this is actual some type of concept art, but you do have this look where they they generally look like a human, but then when they have their helmet completely off, we'll find that maybe they have a kind of like a more exotic or a more interesting look to them. But I don't know, I've always found this conversation really interesting. I've seen it gets brought up on the Mass Effect subreddit, I'd say monthly. You'll see this pop up, and you'll see people bring up some of this art and kind of be like, yeah, I wish she looked more like that. And I'm always like, I really like that character, I kind of wish she didn't. Like but that also brings in some bias of my own. So I'm kind of curious to what you think. If you wish that she looked more alien. I am really interested in how, if the next game takes place in a situation where the Quarians can show themselves more, I assume they'll make all of the Quarians essentially look like this, and in their own variations, and that the men will look like this as well of their species. So I think this was a good thing. I think it makes sense with where they go. I do think it's interesting to consider why people want her to look kind of like a monstrosity. In my opinion, like this, I think this looks awful. But maybe that's just my very personal and biased take. So let me know what you think, if you like how they made Tali look and the Quarians in general, or if you wish they would have been a little bit different. Maybe there's some concept art I haven't seen that you like. You can put that in the comments of the video. So that's all I have for this one. Please subscribe to the channel if you want more Mass Effect chat, if you want just gaming news in general as well, and speculation and reviews. I do have a weekly podcast called the Echo Cast, which you can listen to here or on all podcast providers. It's a weekly gaming general podcast. I talk about all kinds of stuff. You can also find me as Bond Diesel all over the internet, right here on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and basically everywhere else that matters. So do that. That's all I have for this one. Until next time.